Okay, thank you all for joining us for our next topic discussion, where I have the pleasure and welcoming Olga Kornienko, the co-founder and COO at EasyDRM, who is joined by Melanie Starling, product lead for Neon at Sky New Zealand. Unfortunately, we were meant to have Carmen Aitken with us, the GM of product from TVNZ, but unfortunately she couldn't join us this morning. Our panel discussion will be on content delivery strategies for OTT. So before getting into the core of the discussion, ladies, how about we'll get started with a brief introduction from Melanie.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I'm product lead for Neon here at Sky TV, and my role is really looking after product strategy and product delivery for the Neon platform. We are an OTT streaming service here in New Zealand, subscriber SVOD only, and we also do movie rentals as well.
Olga, do you want to add what is a DRM, what type of product and solution you offer?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Shanna. And so, as you said, I'm Olga Kornienko. I'm the co-founder and COO of EasyDRM. We are a hosted, managed, cloud service-based multi-DRM system, where we offer four primary DRM technologies in 2 simple APIs and try to make DRM and content protection as simple as possible.
Excellent. So let's start with the first question, and as we have 30 minutes discussion, so I want to ask you, how do you define the transformation of content consumption landscape in the region? So basically in the Australian and New Zealand region. In other words, is streaming already bigger than the broadcasting world? Melanie?
Yeah, so I guess the answer is we're not quite there yet. So SVOD is definitely growing significantly, and especially with the sort of the general behaviour changes with COVID, we've seen that increase drastically over the last couple of years. But broadcast is still very dominant in the local market, particularly around peak viewing time. That's kind of quite often the go-to for the New Zealand audiences. But very much also there's a demographic shift there as well, and so broadcast is very much strongly favoured by the older demographics, and we're seeing sort of younger audiences moving more towards streaming. So we're growing, but I'd say we're not quite there yet.
And in terms of Olga, as a solution provider, what main transformation has EasyDRM witnessed when it comes to delivery?
Well, it was actually very interesting to watch what was going on within the past 2 years from most of our clients, because a lot of them had to pivot and to a certain extent change what they were doing. Obviously, the amount of content that was being consumed skyrocketed. We had basically about double, if not triple, the amount of volume of licenses that people were issuing. And everybody wanted to go streaming, and everybody wanted to make sure that the content is secure. So there were a lot of changes within business models in general, because companies that were doing pre-release content or things like that all of a sudden changed their business strategy to be able to broadcast videos to viewers all over the place, as opposed to just internally. And definitely consumption went up.
Yeah. So you talk about content a lot. So in terms of digital content offers, what type of offers, especially with Neon, what type of offers do you guys focus on? So we've seen a lot of, especially during COVID.
Do you mean sort of in terms of like the content that's being watched, consumed?
Exactly.
So I guess a big sort of part of our catalogue is the HBO premium drama, and we know that's what a lot of customers are coming to us to watch. We see those shows are one of often the most watched shows on our service. But just generally, I think it's drama. They're looking for sort of escapist, escapist drama, comedy. Our content is, definitely more of that. As I say, fiction, drama. We still do have a lot of documentaries and things on the service as well. But definitely, I think, particularly during COVID, a lot of people were looking for that sort of escapism when it came to that content they were watching.
Excellent. Olga, I want to ask you, a particular question about compared to EasyDRM has been on the market for a long time now, and so especially on the other side of the world, and so compared to the services you provide, other than ANZ region, how can you deploy these type of solution and services within this particular region?
So we have been, you alluded to us, being in business for a while. We have been in business, and I'm afraid to kind of say this out loud, for almost 19 years. And we are, as I said, a hosted managed service. So the process is pretty straightforward. We offer a key management system, which is cloud-based, and we offer a license service, which is cloud-based. And with us, the being able to protect your content is as simple as deploying 2 APIs. And we do offer a lot of services on the US side of the world. I am joining you guys from New York, where it is still Thursday night. Wednesday night. Wednesday night. It's a pretty straightforward service, having an encoder speak to our key management service and a CRM speak to our licensing service.
Excellent. And so you talk about licensing service and CRM service. My other question to you is, to you both, is monetization strategies. So, we've seen viewers turning towards OTT more during those last 2 years. So, how are you guys monetizing your service, especially with Neon, and is TVOD still a relevant thing in New Zealand and Australia? New Zealand.
Yeah. So for us, we're SVOD is our main focus as a service. So we sort of offering our customers with it's a monthly subscription, or we can offer them an annual option to save. So we're sort of trying to offer the customers some flexibility there. And then, as you say, we also offer TVOD for our movie rental service. And so for us, TVOD, I think, is very much still relevant. It's really down to offering customers the content, how they want to watch it. And so for us, with TVOD, very much there are movies there that you can't get on streaming services. So customers are kind of coming to us to rent those movies. For example, when the latest Spider-Man film came out at the end of last year, that the previous Spider-Man film wasn't available on any of the other streaming services, and we saw a real jump in customers coming to us to rent that movie ahead of the film being in cinemas. So I think very much TVOD is a really good supporting model for us because, we're giving the customer that flexibility to sort of dip in and out and rent those movies and where they choose to if they can't get it anywhere else.
And Olga, I'm guessing you have a lot of clients on the US side of the world, on the US market. Is there any particular case study or anyone you can, how you can assist the ANZ in terms of monetization?
Well, actually, the way our system is built is on the licensing of the playback side, the system is very flexible. Every license request is a unique request, and we make the request every time we receive a request. The request comes to our client, and we ask them what kind of a license they would like to issue. So in the grand scheme of things, you really don't have to pick a business model when you DRM protect the content. You can always change the type of license you issue for the video or for any piece of content as the business model changes. Because once you protect the video once, if it's, you know, any movie, Spider-Man or, you know, Ghostbusters was something I've recently seen. I thought it was completely wonderful. You can DRM protect it and have a license get issued for it for one-time play for the first X amount of weeks while it's still in, you know, in theater release. And then further down the line, take the same exact video and change the rules on the business side of things and issue a completely different license, and keep changing the type of license you issue every time the release window or the broadcast window changes, without having to DRM protect the reprotect the content or change anything else from the physical asset side of things. So you can keep changing it as much as you need to without having to worry about the content itself.
Okay, so moving on, what I wanted to talk to you, ask you guys was, you know, the state of piracy, because of course this is, you know, sometimes you speak with people, players in the industry, and they don't want to talk about piracy. But piracy is still an issue globally. So how, as a solution provider, how can your DRM services assist players in the content, with the content protection? So keeping in mind that it's an issue.
Well, so piracy and anti-piracy in general, I think, should be looked at as a holistic solution. I think part of it is figuring out why people pirate, the human aspect behind it. What is it that makes somebody want to view a specific video, pirate it, or whatever? And then it has to be a company-wide decision to address and approach this whole solution holistically, where DRM would be your prevention, and watermarking would be an additional layer of protection if it's visible watermarking, or you can see who the content is licensed to, which is not the most attractive thing in the world, and that's something you want to see. But also you can use forensic watermarking to hunt down and take down the content if it's ever stolen. But it has to be a more of a holistic global approach, starting with figuring out why people pirate. And I think that is also something that the industry as a whole needs to address, because figuring out why people pirating and addressing those specific human, like psychological issues from a perspective of, well, I am about to start watching the new season of this show. I don't remember what happened last year, so I want to find the last 2 episodes. And if they're not available, well, people would try to find them in any way possible. If you make those episodes available, then you might be cutting down on piracy and things like that also need to be addressed.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that as well. And I think that kind of also plays into sort of the content release strategy too. I think to be able to address that, and as I say, address those needs that the customers are trying to get that content as soon as they can. So there's some of the strategies that we look at are really being able to kind of have our release windows as close as possible to the international market. So when something's released in the States, on HBO Max, for example, we want to be able to have that on the service as soon as we can. And then that therefore sort of reduces that, that need to go and pirate something if we have it available to them already.
And Mel, as a platform in New Zealand, so I'm sure you've witnessed a lot of pirated content that's happening in the area, in the region. I mean, what is the most pirated content you've witnessed?
So when we sort of look at the numbers that come through around pirated content, it really tends to be those sort of top in-demand shows. So some of the data that we've seen is around things like, those really must-see or most talked about shows, a lot of those Disney shows, so like Loki, WandaVision, and then the really sort of blockbuster movies. So whether that was, Black Widow, Zack Snyder's Justice League, you can sort of see that they're looking for those sort of top shows as soon as they come out. Seems to be kind of the trends that we've seen with the data.
See, it was interesting. Last year, we were discussing this topic, and it was interesting that during the pandemic, right as the pandemic started, everybody was kind of pirating a movie, and I always forget the name of it, about the pandemic. And the first part of March, everybody was kind of watching this movie, and then people really got nervous and stopped watching that movie and switched to, as Melanie said, into the escapism world of Harry Potter. And the gentleman that was talking about it was saying that all of a sudden, like, they saw the pandemic movie drop in piracy, and Harry Potter, whatever people could, just completely skyrocket in piracy because people tried to, as Mel said, escape. And it's actually interesting to see how people's opinions changed and fear set in, and all of a sudden people were watching, just like you said, fantasy and whatnot, just to not think about what was going on in 2 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have 15 minutes left to in our little discussion. So I want to move on to our next section, which is the the technological advances and opportunity within the landscape. So we have seen the OTT market is continuing to expand, and as a key player, Neon as a key player in the New Zealand region, how do you extend your content offer to your subscribers and viewers? How do you keep them engaged and loyal?
So for us, it's really about one of the key things we are looking at is understanding the customer and being able to personalize their experience, understand what they're watching once they come into the platform. It's really about kind of understanding what they're watching and then being able to sort of serve them similar content, really sort of keep them engaged and being able to show them sort of everything else that we have on offer. So I think that's probably one of the key strategies for us. And it's just really about that sort of communication to the customer, not just in platform, but also, in our CRM and our marketing journeys as well. It's about sort of understanding them, knowing what they're looking for, being able to serve that to them throughout their journey, sort of as they're coming into the platform and if they may be finishing a show. I would say that's kind of a big part of our strategy for sort of retaining them and keeping them engaged with Neon.
And so we will come back to content protection here. So Olga, so in terms of providing like Neon providing exclusivity content, how can DRM help a company like Neon?
Well, I think the main thing about us as a DRM provider is to make sure that our solution is very, very flexible, and it does not impede any company from being able to do what they are supposed to do, which is deliver the content, which is keep the customers entertained and engaged. So the solution itself has to be flexible enough where the company that is providing the content can run their business model and not have to adjust what they're doing to fit the technology. But the technology has to fit the business. And I think having a technology that is flexible like ours, that allows you to change the business model if you need to, change the monetization strategy whenever you decide you want to, without having to completely reconstruct everything, is what is the most important thing that we can deliver to a client. Because at the end of the day, if our client is happy, then their viewers are happy. And that is basically why we do exactly what we do.
Yeah, and I would agree in terms of having tools available for us as the vendor or for us as the OTT platform, for example. It's really helpful to be able to have those strategies in place. And we don't want to necessarily be building it ourselves if we can get that from vendors to sort of help us with that content protection. And as you say, ensure that it is kind of the smoothest possible experience for the customer at the same time, while ensuring that we're protecting it to those requirements.
See, and I think it's interesting because I feel like it almost brings us to a conversation of whether or not you build or buy the solution. And I feel like in certain cases you may want to build, But in an infrastructure like DRM and anti-piracy, and if you were to build a service like ours, you would have to stand up multiple redundant servers all over the world, because key servers should probably be closer to you, but the licensing servers should be closer to the end customer. So you would need to be standing up multiple redundant servers all over the world and making sure that they're all in sync and talking to one another and, doing all this stuff. So it is definitely it's a privilege to be able to serve the whole world, from the comfort of a New York home type of thing.
Yeah. So, and one thing that I wanted to moving on our next point will be talking about the innovation in the world of content delivery. So, what new advances do you think will help the expansion of OTT landscape? So I will talk with Mel in New Zealand perspective, and then Olga in a more broader perspective.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of advances, it's really, I think, was looking to, I think it's diversifying kind of monetization models. So, how the customer consumes content, looking at how they want to, there's more and more services out there. So I think very much the trend is really about how you can make it as flexible as possible for customers. Disney are already talking about doing kind of a potentially a lower tier ad streams service. Netflix have kind of talked on and off about it for a while. I think we'll see a lot of changes there. I think also around things like account sharing as well. And Netflix are already looking at cracking down and offering sort of alternative ways for customers to pay for account sharing and things like that. So I think that'll definitely be sort of the changing monetization will definitely be something that we'll see. I don't know, Olga, if there's anything that you've seen yourself.
Well, that is something that absolutely makes sense on the end user side. We actually did a survey at some point, and we looked into how people offer content and how people want to consume content. And that was actually two very different things. And what you said definitely falls in the category of how people would want to consume things. Because I even think about it from my own personal perspective of why would I want to sign up for a streaming service, the whole service, pay a monthly fee, if there's only one show that I want to watch. And if there's only one show I want to watch, I should be able to either watch it in an ad-supported version or just straight up pay to watch the one show that I want to watch. And I think that doesn't seem to be an option right now. But definitely that was something that we came across, as well as the fact that people would like the geo-blocking to be removed. And once we all start traveling again, being able to watch the content that we should be able to watch from our home region while we're traveling, because I think that is also something that's important, and be able to, yet again, cut down on piracy.
And that you mentioned piracy. So what is DRM expect from a content security solution in the next few years, or maybe a year? Maybe we'll go through this more.
A few years. I was, it's a very good question. A few years. Well, basically, the industry has been moving towards standardization and being able to standardize on as many things as possible, which makes it a lot easier for clients to use services and pick the provider that they like best, and possibly change providers if they need to. And if everybody is using the same standards, then it makes it a lot easier for clients to pick their best of breed solutions and stick with them. And with CMAF coming in, I feel like it's going to make it easier for everybody to offer content and be able to consume it in the way that they want to consume it.
Okay, so And for Neon, in terms of delivery strategies, how do you see the advances?
Delivery strategies in terms of how we deliver content, or I mean, I think for us, there's expansion of devices and sort of expanding to further devices. That's something that we're definitely looking to tackle. We've got a pretty broad coverage, but I think there's still more that we can do. So I think expanding our offering is one of those. Increasing, I think I talked before, personalization is quite important to us. So sort of increasing the ways that we're personalizing customers and building on our own recommendation service. So that's kind of a really big focus for us. And it's really about delivering that quality experience. So it's being able to ensure, regardless of what device you're watching, wherever you are in New Zealand, that you're getting a quality streaming experience. So for us, it's really looking at those innovations around how we're delivering content to customers and being able to kind of deliver that smoothest experience possible. And as I said, working with our vendors to help us deliver on those.
Okay, I think we will have reached, the end of our discussion. So I want to just, before we wrap up, Melanie and Olga, final thoughts for 2022.
Wow, that's an unexpected question. Well, that's a very good question. Melanie, do you have one at the moment?
I think it was interesting. I saw another conversation, and they talked about actually getting together in person. I know that's something that we're all looking forward to as a team. Neon being able to get together in person again. I think 2022 will hopefully be the year that we get to do that a lot more. I think also just lots more exciting content coming. There's the pandemic, we saw some delays in terms of, content being able to be produced and getting to customers. So I think really, seeing some really awesome titles coming through in 2022 is something else that we'll be looking forward to.
Yeah, and actually, come to think of it, I was just thinking about the fact that this is a very interesting event that you guys are hosting that is completely virtual. And I know that we're going to start switching back into the world of in-person events, but I'm curious if the idea of having more hybrid events would actually take place, because I feel like not everybody can travel. And we've enjoyed the pleasure of being able to, just like I am currently joining an event in Australia and New Zealand. And I think it's wonderful that I can do this. And I don't know if I would have been able to do this without a virtual aspect of it. So I think I've seen a trend towards more hybrid events going forward as well.
Okay, thank you both for taking the time. Thank you, Olga, for being here late where you are, and have enjoyed the rest of your day, Melanie, and have a good night, Olga, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.